Hi, it's me, Frauke, and in today's video I want to talk about what it's like to have a Pluto Ascendant. A Pluto Ascendant is when your Ascendant is in conjunction, meaning very close degrees to it. This can either be the first house or in the 12th house. In this video I'm going to talk about my personal experience with this placement. My Pluto is within 1 degree in the first house, conjunct my Ascendant, and both are in Scorpio, and my Pluto is in reverse. I also have a Moon Ascendant. I did a video on that, so if you want to, you can go check it out. This is a little bit of a more difficult video to make, and I'm sure if you have dominant Pluto in your chart, you're gonna understand why. It adds a lot of intensity to your life, and in my case with Pluto being conjunct the Ascendant and also being in reverse, a lot of the changes happen on the inside, and so it's not often very visible on the outside, which makes things a lot of, I would say, harder. So let's start with the first dominant theme that I noticed throughout my life, and that is plot twists. My life and the way I experience my world has gone through huge transformations and plot twists, but they don't happen all the time, but in seasons. Usually the change leads up. So I think crisis is a really crucial part of both a Scorpio rising and a Pluto rising's life. So I feel like a lot of these bleed into each other. These changes that happen in a larger period of time, and suddenly there's this thing and it's really sudden and you're like, oh my god, I did not see this coming. Something I'm also noticing is that there is a really strong will to understand yourself. It's like you don't really know who you are. Another thing that I discovered in my adult life is that I need to do a lot of shadow work. Now, in my description here, I call myself a shadow worker, but that doesn't mean I always love it. And I do try to avoid it, but sometimes I feel like the changes I want to implement and when I want to get somewhere, I have to do shadow work. There's like no other way around it. One thing that also ties into the aspect of shadow work is that I have a really keen interest in psychology and spirituality. However, not on a, conventional level. I even thought about studying psychology, but I hope this doesn't sound too mean, but I'm not very happy with the conventional methods of how it's taught and how it's done. Now I want to go a little bit into socializing, friends and relationships. So, yes, I'm really private, but I actually don't want to be. I actually want to be open, and I actually want to connect to other people, but it's like there's this big shell that I just can't seem to pierce through. And I never understood this, but people often just interpret this as arrogance, or they start projecting their own shadows onto me. This happens so often, you guys. And so if I can feel, just by being quiet, people feel really unsettled by me. I've been actually told this directly. When I do get closer with these people, I hear stories about how they perceived me for the first time and they thought they could never get close to me, that I'm unapproachable, or that I'm arrogant and a bitch. I've also been told that they think I'm actually really evil and not as cute as I present myself. So yeah, and I would love to say it was just about them, they just project their shit onto me, but I play a part in that, because if I would let people closer to me, if I'd take the risk and be more vulnerable, they would actually find out that there's more to that, or they would realize they really don't like me, which would be fine too. So yeah, one thing I've also noticed is that I don't do super well in new group situations. I think everyone's overwhelmed with that, but some people are just naturals, and I take so long to open up, like a slug. That's how long I need to open up to people, especially in groups. But I do love partying, I do love having fun with people, but yeah, it's really hard for me to find that constellation of people where I really feel safe. So usually it's friends I've known for ages. And Pluto adds apparently a little bit of weirdness to you, even though I refuse to see this as a bad thing, okay? Even though I've been told something else before, but screw that. Another thing that I want to add to the topic of relationships is that I love having deep and intimate relationship with one human. I love the depth of getting to know somebody like that. Honestly, I sometimes feel like that is what makes my life worth living, is getting to know another human on such a deep level. I don't know, this deep-seated good feeling. But yeah, also in romantic relationships, I'm really private and I keep so much to myself. And it's fear, okay? Fear is the main motivator here. The last part I want to go into is my childhood. I saved this one for last because it's the one I feel the most unsure of. Like most children who experienced trauma, an understanding of your childhood can be murky. It might feel like you don't really see through to why was it so traumatic? You know, why am I feeling this way towards my childhood? And even if it's things that are valid to your brain, like if you write it in a diary or if you say it out loud, your brain is telling you, yeah, that's fucked up. Some people still think if you talk about childhood trauma that it's about parent bashing, which is not the case. My parents did their absolute best, especially my mother. But there's a huge theme in my life of domination for the sake of my own good. So having a strong grip on what is right, how things are done. Girl, you should be a polite girl. I think a huge part of my personality is due to this conditioning. So there's a lot of overriding and yeah. And I think this is what a lot of Scorpio risings and Pluto risings go through, because both of these placements deal with power. And I think that, you know, your childhood is a contrasting experience to what you want to expand to in your life. So I can only guess because I'm still so young, but I think that this is why I'm learning these hard lessons on how to get into my power. And I'm learning to discern who am I, you know. So a good keyword here would be enmeshment trauma. If that's something you're interested in, you can Google that. It's about feeling like you don't have a clear-cut sense of identity and you try to figure out who am I, you know, trying to understand your own psyche. Coming to my appearance, I don't think I have a typical Pluto appearance because I read a lot that individuals with Pluto rising are magnetic and super sexy and intimidating, and I wouldn't say that I'm really intimidating. Maybe I'm not seeing myself clearly. Could also be the case. Do you feel like me wearing black? That's an armor. It's one I developed in my really early adult years, where I realized that black makes me feel more powerful. It's actually positive armor for me. It makes me feel classy and it's easy to style. And red, I love reds, especially darker reds. please let me know what your experiences are. I would be really interested in that. How are your experiences with this placement? Maybe I'm gonna call this a part 1 because I don't know if I covered all that I wanted to cover. And yeah, thank you so much for watching, and have a nice night, I guess, for me at least, or whatever time you're watching this.